Welcome back to the part 3 of the medium tanks tier list. In today's video we're ranking medium tanks from 4.0 to 4.7. Let me know what you want to see next and make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get started. First tank on the list is the M4A2. This American medium tank is pretty awesome. It has a strong 75 cannon that can fire APHE, HE and APCR, so you can easily penetrate most tanks you'll face. While the engine's horsepower isn't much higher, it delivers stronger low-end torque, giving the tank better acceleration and higher top speed. The armor isn't drastically different, but the front glacis plate is thicker, and the tank no longer has major weak spots, aside from the MG port that's common to most American tanks. Moreover, the tank also gets additional track armor and smoke grenades that greatly improve its survivability. S tier. The T34 Calliope. This American rocket spammer is basically a regular M4 Sherman with 60 rockets strapped on top. It keeps the same 75 M3 cannon, but those rockets make it far more dangerous. It can easily destroy lightly armored and open-top vehicles, and even threaten heavier tanks. Even if the rockets don't overpressure a target, they can easily disable the barrel or tracks while you reload and finish the job with the main cannon. Overall, it's a chaotic but incredibly fun tank to play. You can handle most targets effectively while causing absolute mayhem. S tier. The M4A2 This rare German tank is basically a captured M4A2 Sherman with only minor changes to its add-on armor layout. Despite that, having a Sherman in the German tree is a huge advantage. You also have to face powerful German guns like those on the Panzer IVs that can easily take out a Sherman with a single shot. On top of that, you can easily fool American players by sneaking around and taking them out, especially in simulator battles. S tier. The T34 1941. This is the second variant of the T34 line, sharing the same armor and mobility as the T34 1940. It remains fast, agile and surprisingly survivable even at 4.0. The hull armor is still the standout feature, capable of bouncing a lot of incoming shots, and the turret is the usual T34 setup. The cheeks are the main weak spots, but they are hard to hit when you are on the move, which works in your favor. The main upgrade for this T34 variant is the gun. Compared to the 1940 model, the 1941 gets better shells, higher penetration, and the classic Soviet APHE that just deletes anything it gets through. However, the penetration is still a bit underwhelming compared to the other guns in 4.0. And like most Soviet tanks, the lack of a stabilizer and the awful gun depression can be frustrating, but overall though, this is a dependable, well-rounded brawler that does the job and does it really well. B tier. The T34 1942. This is the third T34 in the line, and it comes with a bunch of improvements over the earlier models. It keeps the same quick acceleration, responsive mobility, and the familiar well-sloped hull armor that can shrug off a surprising amount of fire. The turret comes with a new design featuring a slightly better armor, but the cheeks are still the most consistent weak spot, and now the more exposed turret ring that adds another weak spot for the enemies to exploit. A well-placed shot there can jam the turret or knock out the tank entirely. Fortunately though, these weak spots become much harder to hit when you stay on the move, which is exactly how this tank is meant to be played. The cannon remains the same overall, but you get a slightly faster reload and new shell options. APCR and heat are now available. APCR is mediocre like the usual, but it works well enough against flat armor when you need the extra penetration. Overall, the T34 1942 is the familiar T34 experience with minor but welcomed upgrades. B tier. The T34 SGZ. This is a factory-specific variant of the T34 built at the Stalingrad tractor plant. It keeps the same trademark T34 speed and sloped hull armor, but this variant received the extra welded plates and a tougher overall build, giving it a noticeably better survivability than the previous versions. The mobility is also improved with a higher top speed and better acceleration, making it a much more dangerous tank while remaining at 4.0. The firepower is still the same, but the combination of improved armor and mobility make this variant far more versatile. You can control engagements better, whether that means flanking, pressuring enemy lines, or setting traps for advancing enemies. A tier. The T34 Ic. This experimental T34 variant is basically a T34 1941 but with additional armor that makes it more difficult to take out. The hull gets additional armor on the sides and the turret is slightly reinforced, but the cheeks remain vulnerable if exposed. The extra armor makes the tank heavier, so it's a bit slower than the other T34 variants, but it's still decently fast and agile. Overall, this is a more durable tank that offers a sturdier alternative to the standard mid-tier T34s. A tier. The T34 57. This is a firepower-focused T34 that replaces the standard 76mm gun with the 57's S4, giving a faster reload, higher penetration, and the ability to take out most tanks at 4.7 and even some at 5.7. The tank has two APHE shell options, the Br271 and the Br271K. The Br271K has slightly more HE filler, but its penetration is lower, making the Br271 the more reliable choice for consistent performance. The armor remains the familiar T34 sloped hull and turret, which becomes vulnerable to pretty much any cannon, especially at close range. The mobility is unchanged from the previous T34s, keeping it fast and agile, which is a key advantage for this tank. A tier. The T34 57 1943. This is essentially a T34 1942 but armed with the high velocity Z4M cannon. The upgrade gives it much higher penetration and faster reload, and in addition to the APHE shells, it can also fire APCR for even more penetration. The armor and mobility remain the same as the 1942 model with the familiar sloped hull and turret. Unlike the previous T34 57, the armor is largely obsolete, but the tank stays fast and agile, making it effective for flanking and ambushing targets. A tier. The T34 747. This is a captured version of the Soviet T34 1942, modified with additional armor in the front of the hull and the removed forward mud guards. The turret is pretty much the same with the addition of the commander's cupola, but it still plays the same as the Soviet version. A tier. The Avenger. In real life, the Avenger was built as a tank destroyer, but in-game is classed as a medium tank, so we'll treat it as a medium tank. It's packing the deadly 17-pounder cannon in a low, lightly armored chassis. The gun fires a variety of AP rounds reaching up to 190mm of penetration at just 4.7. And although the shells lack HE filler, a well-placed shot will always take out a target in a single hit. And even if you get up tiered, you can easily handle well-armored targets. The armor is not that thick, but it surprised me many times by surviving deadly shots. The mobility is where this tank truly shines. It is very fast and agile for a medium tank, and combined with a strong cannon and a quick reload, the Avenger can effectively wipe out groups of enemies very quickly. But just like every tank, the Avenger has some drawbacks. The reverse speed is painfully slow, meaning retreat is not really an option. The only way is forward. Overall, the Avenger is excellent at sniping, flanking and ambushing enemies, and you can always have a good game when you take advantage of his speed and firepower. S tier. The Sherman Firefly. This iconic tank is a modified variant of the M4 Sherman, armed with a powerful 17-pounder cannon. And with the upgrade, the tank goes from a medium tank into a formidable tank destroyer, capable of punching through any tank at 4.7 and even higher BRs. The armor is similar to the standard Sherman, so it still has weak spots we pointed out in the M4 review in the previous video. But the Firefly gets some add-on armor that slightly improves survivability since the M4 hull is vulnerable at 4.7. The mobility remains the same as well, with decent speed and agility. But with the 17-pounder, the Firefly is played differently since you can take out targets from long range easily. The main drawbacks are the lack of HE filler and the poor gun depression. It really sucks. You can't take advantage of this tank's high profile when trying to peek through hills, and you have to expose the whole tank if you want to take a shot. A tier. The Firefly Overlord. This is just a premium Firefly with added protection over its weak spots, and the camo net makes those weak spots harder to see. Other than that, it's the same, just with premium bonuses. A tier. There is also the Sherman 1C Trzyniec, a premium Polish Firefly with some extra armor on the turret and hull, but otherwise it's basically the same, so A tier as well. The Shinu II. This Japanese tank is pretty much a Shinu, but armed with a much stronger cannon that can be overpowered at 4.3. The armor and mobility remain the same, so while the gun is great, the tank itself is still an easy target and rarely survives a hit. And thanks to the higher velocity APHE shells, you can reliably one-shot most targets, even at long range. And that's exactly what this tank is good at. B tier. The Shito. This is a noticeable step up from the previous Japanese medium tanks with a stronger cannon, good mobility and a slightly better armor. The gun fires a powerful APHE shell that can easily take out targets, especially at longer ranges. The armor is thicker compared to the previous mediums, but it's still not great at 4.7. It's mostly flat and the hull has chamfered corners, so angling doesn't help much either. Additionally, the tank is tall, making it easy to spot and hit over cover, especially the giant cupola. But for sniping and peeking over hills, the height actually works in your favor, giving you an excellent firing position when combined with the good gun depression. On top of that, the Cheeto is pretty fast with around 45 kph, so you can quickly move around the map to flanking positions. Overall, the Cheeto is a solid medium tank at 4.7 and the cannon is genuinely impressive. A tier. The Cheeto Late. This tank is the final and improved version of the Cheeto, featuring a more compact design and a slightly angled armor that enhances its survivability. The turret is smaller, more rounded, and the giant cupola's profile is reduced, while the hull angles help deflect some incoming fire. The firepower remains the same, with a reliable 75mm gun that's capable of one-shotting most targets. The mobility is unchanged as well, aside from a slightly faster acceleration. Overall, it's essentially the same tank as this Cheeto, but the design refinements make it a bit more survivable. A tier. The T34 1943. This tank is essentially the same as the T34 1942 in the Soviet tech tree. Some of you guys asked why I skipped China or some nations in certain videos. It's because, for example, most of the early Chinese tree is made up of Soviet, American or Japanese tanks. And if a tank is just a copy, I skip it unless it has noticeable differences. B tier. The M4A1 This Chinese Sherman variant is very unique. It has the hull and turret of the newer M4A1 but is armed with a 75 cannon. The Sherman 76 armor is not impressive at 5.0, but at this BR it can be surprisingly survivable. It's rounded and angled all over and can bounce many dangerous shots. The 75 M3 cannon is still effective at this BR, and just like most Shermans, this tank comes with a stabilizer, a 50 cal, and the usual hull MG port. The W in the name stands for wet ammo stowage, which reduces the chances of ammo explosions, though in game it doesn't seem to have a noticeable effect. Regardless, this Sherman is reliable, versatile, and a solid choice at 4.0. A tier. The Turan III. This is the third and last variant in the Turan line. It's basically a beefed up Turan II, now packing a much stronger 75mm cannon that can seriously threaten enemies at 4.0 and even higher BRs. The armor is not that great, a bit thicker up front, but pretty thin on the sides, and the tall hull and cupola make it an easy target. Despite this, the Turan III really shines in mobility. It can reach around 43 km/h forward and backwards, making it great for flanking, repositioning, or getting out of sticky situations. It also has smoke grenades and side skirts, which provide occasional protection against HE and heat shells. Overall, the Turan III is a solid mix of firepower and mobility that shines when you play smart and stay on the move. S tier. The Sherman 1C. This Italian Sherman variant is basically a Sherman Composito fitted with a 17-pounder cannon, making it very similar to the British Sherman Firefly but with a slightly better acceleration. The hull is a mix of cast and welded plates with a sloped front that has no major weak spots aside from the MG port. While this armor was solid for the Composito at 3.7, it becomes much easier to penetrate at 4.7 where enemy cannons are far more powerful. And just like the Firefly, the Sherman 1C has decent mobility, charitable gun depression, and smoke grenades. A tier. Alright guys, here is the final tier list. Let me know what you think and subscribe so don't miss my next videos.